there, weight loss surgery friends. I've missed you the last 3 weeks, and so my son and I are on our way to get groceries. We haven't been grocery shopping in over a month, and so today's the day. It is 50 degrees and raining here in Oklahoma, so I hate it that today's the day. But anyways, he's being kind of chill in the back seat, and I thought I would try to check in. So my stats are: I am Rachel, 34 years old, 6 foot tall, a high weight, was 363 pounds, a BMI of 51, and my surgery day weight on July the 7th, 2017 was 319 pounds, a BMI of 45. I beat obesity into remission January the 11th, 2018, and I met my goal to have a BMI of less than 25 to qualify as an organ donor for my son on July the 7th, 2018 at a weight of 178 pounds. And 3 weeks ago when I came to you, I was weighing in, I believe, at 180. Of course, it's hard to remember after nearly a month. But here at month 15, regrettably, today I weigh 185 pounds. So, there's that. So, how did I get to 185 pounds? Well, basically it's been like 3 weeks of traveling, and I am not good at traveling. You're probably all wondering how my visit with the in-laws went, since my father-in-law, I'm going to say, is vegan. So I'm like totally supportive of anyone doing any diet, anything that that suits your needs and your lifestyle. I'm totally for it. But this visit, as far as food is going, as food is concerned, didn't go as well as it could have. And I don't blame it on him being vegan. I say this in the loosest sense of the word, because that's the whole problem. Is I can support anything if you just let me know what I'm up against. But I'm honestly glad I didn't put more effort in everything. I mean, I did put some effort into it. I had something planned to eat every day that would be acceptable. I'll get to why that didn't work out for multiple reasons. But ultimately, no matter how much effort I would have put into the meal plan for the time my in-laws were visiting, because it was so inconsistent. Like at one point I would have said he was vegan, and then the next day I would have said he was pescatarian, and then the next day I would have just said he was vegetarian, and then the next day I would have said he just had the normal all-American diet. And so and on any given day there was like no explanation. Like, you know, he said he was just giving himself some slack because it's vacation, but then on any given day he wouldn't eat certain, you know, whatever certain thing that he had ate the day before. So it was just really hard and confusing. The most awkward times we came to one night, and let me just say that the night that they arrived, the heating element went out in my stove oven combo. And so talk about terrible timing. Like I had this like faux vegan lasagna planned. I had like, you know, all these different things planned. They all involve cooking, of course. So that was just a nightmare. And here in rural Oklahoma, I couldn't get the parts to fix it until for like 5 days, and then I was flying to Boston with my son. So, you know, anyways, the whole meal plan thing just went out the window. And anyways, my mom invited us over the next day, and it was just hometown cooking, you know, pork chops, scalloped potatoes, green beans, but he ended up eating everything that my mom cooked. And so my mom was like, well, since you don't have any way to cook, like, you can take all the leftovers home and do some different things with it. But then the next day, like, he was like, no, I'm not going to eat like that again. And so I was like, okay. So anyways, he just ate different things. It was confusing. But what I was getting to is I was fixing chili cheese dogs for the boys and Fritos, and everyone was getting ready, and it was a football practice night. We just had a busy night. There were some different activities going on, and my father-in-law was just standing in the kitchen. Everyone else was eating, and my mother-in-law, she said, well, you should get something to eat to him. And he was like, what am I supposed to eat? What am I supposed to eat in this house? And like, my heart just sank. Like, I hate for anyone to be unhappy. It was, super awkward. And I was like, there's a few different options. I was like, earlier today you ate some chicken, and so if you would like to have a chicken salad, there's spinach and mushrooms and onions and lettuce, and you could put the chicken on top of it, and that could be an option. I was like, if that doesn't sound good, like, I bought some vegan wraps, and you could make it into a wrap, and he was just like, So anyways, there's enough on that. It was just awkward. Bottom line is I'm supportive of anyone. I just need to know what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis when we're together, and I'm happy to help you work through it. So anyways, I asked my in-laws, what was with this new eating plan, what was the goal, what was the catalyst to it, and they were just real vague, and they were like, oh, it's just a thing. And I was like, okay, what do you mean it's just a thing? It's like, well, we watched a program, and they never tell me what program they watched or anything. As I've been thinking about it more, I guess they just didn't want to maybe share with me, since I'm like the complete opposite, and they just didn't want to make it like a point of contention. So that's fine, but anyways, that's how that went. I just rambled on for 7 minutes. It should have been like a 1-minute answer, but it wasn't. That's typical me. So me and my son, we flew to Boston, and he got a good report. His liver function is stable, and he finally hit the 5th percentile on the growth chart, so the continuous tube feedings are working. I was hoping, since we made that big jump, that maybe we could try to wean down on the tube feedings, but that's not going to happen. We're going to continue with what is working, but we are getting a break after the holidays to go back to Boston, so we're excited to, be home for the holidays, or at least not traveling to Boston to the hospital, if everything goes good and he stays healthy. So that's good. But as far as my health is concerned, I was with my in-laws, everything was fine, ate normally on plan. My weight was right there, like 178, 179 is what I was, and I was really happy about. I don't ever want to be back at Boston Children's Hospital and be outside of that zone. So I was happy to fly out to Boston and be at that healthy weight. But while we were in Boston, we stayed with a new medical host family, because our host family was already booked. They were booked a year in advance, and we never have that luxury. We just have to book our appointments as we go, depending on how Christian's health is doing. So we were with this new family, and it was different. You get to know certain people. You just get to know what to expect with each other, and just whatever your schedule is. And of course, having a child with short bowel syndrome, he has accidents sometimes, frequently, because of his chronic diarrhea. And since he's on tube feeding, sometimes he pulls it loose in the night, and we get, his, formula to go everywhere. So one of the first questions I asked is, I was just like, is it okay if I do a load of laundry? Basically, just asking where the laundry facility, their laundry room was. And they were like, oh no, you can't do laundry. Like, you need to pack your stuff up and go to the hospital, because the hospital does have a couple of washer and dryers for, usually for people that are inpatient. But anyways, it was just an awkward start to our accommodations, and it kind of set the tone for the whole time we were there. So I hated that, but after we've been there for a few days, I guess they started to warm up to me and my son, and they're like, come in here and have some coffee and donuts with us. And I said, oh no, we better get to the hospital. And they was like, no, it's just a 10-minute walk. Like, you have plenty of time, because they knew our appointment schedule. And I was like, well, I'll just have a cup of coffee. And they're like, oh no, don't tell me that you're one of those girls that won't eat with us. And it was like super awkward, and I just couldn't take the pressure. And so I ate donuts, and I was like disappointed in myself for like not standing up for myself. And I was, I wasn't prepared to take that kind of social pressure to eat. And that was a trigger for me, like having the donuts, because I didn't just stop at one. Like, having the donuts, it's like I was like a challenge to like prove myself, like, no, I'm not one of those types of girls. But the fact of the matter is like, I'm more one of those types of girl than anybody, because I have to be, given where I come from in the struggle. But anyways, that was just like a trigger, and that set me off to eat other things the rest of the day. And then I couldn't hardly fight through the cravings the next day, but I did fairly well. The following day, we were invited to a dinner party, and we went to this dinner party, and it was with an Asian family, and they just eat differently. Protein's like the last thing on their mind. It was mainly, rice and vegetables, and I could just eat a lot of that without feeling full. And anyways, it was another one of those social eating situations that I wasn't prepared to handle, and I didn't want to draw attention to myself. I was just like, I felt honored that they invited us to this party, and so I overdid it again. So that brings us to like the day we're flying home. I had to get up at 2 a.m. and get us to the airport, and we ended up having to take a flight from Boston to Denver, Colorado. While our plane was landing in Denver, we had a bird strike on our plane, and so we were just supposed to pick up extra passengers and head on to Oklahoma. But we weren't allowed to do that because our plane had to like pass inspection. So they went through all this inspection, and it eventually did pass, and we got to go home. But I was just afraid. I was running out of diapers. I was running out of medical supplies. I just didn't know how long this was going to take. I didn't have a stroller because they checked it all the way to Oklahoma, because we weren't supposed to be able to get off the plane. But then they couldn't leave us sitting on the plane for all those hours, so we could get off. So I have the baby, no extra supplies, no stroller. It was terrible. But I was so exhausted and so stressed. I just spent that entire day from 2 a.m. like eating to keep myself awake, and then eating with the stress. Like, I spent that whole day eating. So that was like the grand finale to that trip. So had the scale avoidance. I didn't even bother getting on the scale after that, because I knew how bad it must have been. Hey guys, I was just going to add in this little clip, because this is something important that affects weight loss and gain. And anyways, what I forgot to mention is during week 2 of my absence, I came down with pretty severe laryngitis and sinusitis, and I ended up having to go to the doctor. I got a steroid shot, an allergy shot, and an antibiotic shot, and I was put on oral antibiotics. And I lost my voice for like 4 days, and it was just slow to come back, and I just was pretty ill. I would have fought off. I've never taken steroids since I had surgery. because I was concerned with the side effect of weight gain. But I decided that I would go with the doctor's recommendation to take the steroid shot, just because I was supposed to be, driving the kids. That was the day before we were supposed to leave for our trip going to Michigan. So I took it, but that could be part of my 5 pounds up, because steroids affect not only your electrolyte balance and it also affects your metabolism and how your body stores fat, and it's just a really complex interaction in your body. So I'm hoping just to get all that out of my system, and hopefully I can come to you next week with a better number. So I was home for a couple days, and I was furiously unpacking and repacking because we were supposed to go and spend fall break. We were going to spend the week with my husband in Virginia Beach finishing a job. Then he called me when it was 24 hours before we were supposed to leave, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to have to transfer to a job in northern Minnesota." And so he was like, "You need to pack for that. It's like 16 degrees, snowing, So anyways, I unpacked all of our Virginia Beach clothes and, the sand buckets and all of that stuff that I had packed for, our family. And I started repacking again, and I started packing, heavy coats and, all of that. And then when there was 12 hours left to go, my husband calls, and he was like, turns out I have to go back to headquarters. I want you to meet me in Lansing, Michigan. And so, then again, it was kind of a different environment, not cold, but not snowing. And so, I finessed that packing, got us packed, and I drove us the 15 hours to Michigan with the 2, 4, and now 7-year-old. And we left early in the morning, and I was the sole driver, and it was back to me eating to keep myself awake and to keep myself, concentrating on the drive, and just the stress of being the sole driver and caretaker of the kids. Such an ordeal. I mean, even to get out and go to the bathroom, is such an ordeal. Every stop is 30 minutes to an hour, and basically every 2 to 3 hours the kids have to stop. And so it took us 20 hours to get there if you count our stop time. And we got there, we spent the week there. It was a really good week. We went to Uncle John's cider mill pumpkin patch. It's just amazing. 200 acres, a huge pumpkin patch, 9,000 apple trees. We've never been to a pumpkin patch like that. And so we ended up spending 2 days there. And we found a photographer in Lansing to take some family pictures. So that was fun. The first real family picture since I had lost weight, and I'm excited to show y'all some of that. If we get them back in time, then I'll show you. I'll probably do a compare and contrast from our last family pictures to this one. That would be interesting to see. And on the way home, did a repeat of the eat every second during the 20-hour trip. So, been back for a few days. Of course, kicked it back in gear, and the scale is reading 185. Who knows what it got up to. I'm gonna keep staying on track, but the days in Michigan, even though it was a good time, I loved being with, our family being all together. There's something kind of big to talk to you about. My husband, I don't want you to have any bad thoughts about him or anything. He's so loving, and he is so supportive, but he kind of let me know his true feelings for the first time. just flat out saying it. Like, he kind of made some jokes before, and I kind of got the impression of of how he felt. And I should have known anyways, because he loved me at my highest weight, and I was obese whenever we started dating. So he just told me that he thought I was too thin, and he wanted me to eat, and I was like, that I'm not gonna get outside of the range where I can be a liver donor. And he's like, you could gain 10 or 20 pounds, and he's like, you could lose that easily if Christian's liver function got into the red zone, and he needed the transplant. And I was like, I'm not even going to take that risk. Like, 1 pound leads to the next, but even though I kind of stood up for myself saying that, at the same time, he bought a bottle of wine, and I was drinking it even though I knew I was on the heavier side. And then he brought me some candy, and he ordered pizza in, and just the toppings didn't fill me up, and I was still so hungry, and so I ate some of the crust. And anyways, it's such a touchy thing, because I do care, how my husband sees me, and I do, I don't really know what to say. It kind of hurt my feelings a little bit, to hear him say that, even though, we unconditionally love each other, no matter what we look like. It did kind of hurt my feelings. And it could be part of this. I did have some NSVs to share with you. So, we were in Lansing. We had a lot of work dinners. A lot of people John wanted to introduce me to, just as we're getting more involved in this company. And so we met one of his coworkers, and it was a good evening that we had. And the next day, my husband came home from work, and he said, so Will told me when I got to work the next morning, he said, you're in the Howdy Club. And I said, what? And I was like, what does that mean? And he's like, I didn't know either. He said I was in the Howdy Club. And when I asked him what that meant, he said, howdy getter is what that means. And he was just indicating that, I guess that he thought that I was out of my husband's league. And so maybe that instigated some of these feelings to my husband, to where he felt like he could express them to me, because even though I thought that he had these feelings, he'd never directly said it in the last 15 months. So anyways, it's kind of an NSV for me, because I've always wanted to be in the club, because a lot of my husband's coworkers, they've always had really beautiful wives, and I have never fit in. So it felt good to think that maybe I fit in a little better now. Another funny NSV that I had traveling was, whenever me and my son travel, since we have all his medical supplies, including his tube feeding, which had to happen because it happens overnight, and we were taking the red eye. So we were at the airport. Of course, I got chosen for the complete thorough pat down, and we were waiting. I was there with this gentleman. We'd been waiting for 10 minutes. We need to get to our gate. I'm getting more anxious about that. And so after 10 minutes, I was like, hey, if it's all the same to you, I don't care if you pat me down. I understand that you're a professional. And he was like, I wish I didn't value my job so much. He was like, you are one gorgeous girl, and I would love to pat you down, which was so embarrassing that he would say that. But anyways, he was like, but it's just our policy. He's like, we have to wait for a female TSA person to come over. So anyways, we continue standing there awkwardly for another like 5 or 10 minutes then. Which the more I thought about it, the more in today's society, I thought it was so strange that they would have these regulations. But that was kind of an NSV, like, that it never crossed my mind that he would pick only the pretty girls to pat down or something. Like, that wasn't an issue. Like, I was just like, let's just get this done so I can go on, to the gate. But anyways, that's kind of an NSV. Otherwise, like, I felt really proud that me and my son, when we were in Boston, that we walked everywhere. We walked miles and miles all around the city, and I was able to easily do that. Able to, it was the start of the playoffs, and we took the T because we're getting more adventurous. We took the T, and with the Red Sox playing in, there at Fenway, I mean, the T was so crowded. And I always felt in the past, like before I lost weight, I always felt like I was taking up too much space in this world, too much space. And so I hated ever being on an elevator or a train or a bus or anything, because I felt like I was burdening everyone else by taking up more than my fair share of space on this earth. And that made me very, very self-conscious, and it gave me all kinds of bad feelings, and it made me not want to do things or go out. And so to be on that train with all the Red Sox fans and that, great, cheerful environment, just love it. We love the Red Sox, we love Boston, and, to be there on that very crowded train. I'll try to insert a picture if I can. And I just felt good. I just felt happy to be a part of it, happy to see that environment, and I felt like I deserved to be there with everyone else. So that was another NSV that I wanted to mention. Okay, I think 25 minutes is enough. Oh my goodness, my good gracious, I always can't believe it. But I'm just going to close out now. That it's nice to see you all. I've been trying to keep up with you. You kept me so much company during the 20 hours of travel time. I downloaded all your videos. I just didn't hardly have service, and I can't comment on downloaded videos. You have to go back, online and everything. And I have a terrible phone service company. So anyways, I just love seeing you all. I appreciate you keeping me company on the journey. I wasn't really alone because you were with me. And I'm just going to say goodbye for now. I will try not to make it so long before I check in again. But keep God on your mind and in your heart, and be successful, friends. Love you all.